In honor of the Nurburgring 24 hours, this week in Gran Turismo 7 we're racing on the 24-hour layout, and it is spitting rain at the beginning of this race, but most people are starting on dry tires, including myself. I'm in the Mercedes AMG Bilstein liveried car that actually raced in the 24 hours. We're in Group 3 cars as we make it through the chicane here very slowly. I get hit here by a BMW that was spinning out to my right. But overall, about as clean of a start as you could hope for on this particular layout as we continue through the GP part of the circuit. And I currently have traction control on, and I'm just trying to take it easy. I don't want to make any mistakes while the track is still slightly damp. But the grip is pretty good here. It may be worse on the curves or a little bit offline. But I'm trying to take it a little easy here at the start of the race, let the field spread a little bit because it just makes overtaking a bit easier, even though the GP layout is the best place for overtaking, I feel like. It's just wider and there's more runoff. You can get a little bit better runs in certain areas once you get onto the Nordschleife. It's really hard to overtake because it's just so narrow, and I feel like people know that portion of the circuit much better. As you see here, I'm worried about a little bit of a dive bomb, so I go wide, but we're coming to the end of the GP layout here as I check the weather and turn off the traction control because the track's pretty much dry at this point, and it looks like we're not going to get any more rain for the rest of the race. If you're new to my videos, I've pretty much been doing all of my racing in VR now. I just find it more immersive and a fun challenge, and I think it's just better to give this perspective. As you see how tight the racing is here, if you're doing this race in VR, it is quite challenging just because you're always so close to other cars, and sometimes you don't have a clear view of the track in front of you, so you really have to know the circuit. As we see a crash happen there, and the guys behind me unfortunately get taken out, but that takes a little bit of pressure off of me at this point. As another guy is going in the grass, I lift off completely because I read that situation. The nice thing about VR is being able to look left and right very easily, and you can sometimes see things like that coming ahead of you, but it did take me a while to kind of get comfortable with the car and the visibility it changes, as I also run without the race information and without the car names. I just want a clear view ahead of me. As you can see, the perspective when you're right behind guys like this is very limited, and you need to know the track layout. You need to know what's ahead of the car ahead of you, because like right here, all I see is his rear bumper. And I do lift off just so I have a little space, a little breathing room. And sometimes it is hard to see. Sometimes I still make mistakes because I just gotta lose a perspective. And here he makes a mistake and going down in the foxhole, not a place generally to overtake, but we make it through pretty cleanly there. And also, you really feel the car on this track. I think the force feedback is really good. I noticed just a lot more bumps and the wheel kind of fighting me. It's actually enough that I notice it shakes the headset. You can see here as I'm catching up to this Nissan driver and flashing my lights at him here, let him know that he's the next car I plan on overtaking. I just really enjoy these tracks that have good force feedback, and I really feel like I'm immersed in the car. And obviously the 3D perspective you get from VR, just you can really get absorbed into the racing. As he makes a mistake, and here another place not really to overtake, I get a little loose, but we squeeze through just barely in front of him. Is now we're actually up into P5, and obviously at the time, since I'm racing without the race information, I don't know what position I'm in. Yeah, it's inconvenient not knowing the gaps or the position you're in, but it allows you to just focus on the racing, focus on driving the car, and just working on getting up to the next car ahead of you. And here I'm not even sure, I've totally lost count of what the positions are, but I actually think them in about P3 at this point. So I think that that's first 2 cars ahead around this stage of the race, but obviously there's more cars ahead of us that we've got to run down. So now we have another Nissan driver ahead of us, and I feel like I get a pretty good run here. That corner is very important to maximize your exit speed on and try and get up into the slipstream here. Actually, I think this, what is considered a straightaway by some people, you can gain some time here. As you see, you get a little bit of benefit from the draft, but also Bravery Corner, as it's called, up ahead here, you can really gain some time here as well. By committing like that and carrying a decent amount of speed, obviously in the dirty air there, it's a little bit harder to carry full speed through there, but you can see I've caught completely up to the Nissan as he gets a little too aggressive on the throttle, makes a little slip, and I'm close enough to capitalize on his mistake, and we gain another position up in the 4th place now. And again, as I said, at this stage, I think this is first ahead of me. I've already caught 1st place. I couldn't believe it. I've heard many other people say this, but this is my favorite portion of the track. I feel like I'm pretty strong here as well, which is why I like it, although there, get a little wheel spin, a little slide off the curb. After watching the 24-hour race, it is really interesting the lines you can take, like cutting over these curves here. You see them do this in the GT3 cars in the actual Nurburgring 24 hours. So there's a car actually spun off to the left there, which means another position gained. So now we're actually up in the 3rd. And gaining on this vintage classic Nissan GTR is he's struggling, I think, with the pressure building behind him. But I know I just need to remain calm. And sometimes overtakes like this take time, as you'll see. This wasn't an easy overtake. As I said, this track is very narrow, and you don't want to just gain on somebody and just pull out and try and overtake them. I feel like that's what a lot of people do, is as soon as they catch the back of somebody, they just try to find a way around. And I am moving out to try to kind of force an error, but I wouldn't recommend overtaking unless you see a mistake that you can capitalize on. I think that's a bit of advice that hopefully more people will take seriously, because even here, like, I just go ahead and give them a little tap there. I know, one, we don't want to overtake each other going to this corner because it will compromise both of us. And I can be in the draft here, as at this point I think I have noticed that there is another car ahead of us. Because right here you see I just come out and go side by side with them to see what kind of top speed difference there is, and the Nissan beats me here in the drag race, so I tuck in back behind him. And here, another kind of fun thing about VR that you'll see as I bump draft him here is I lean my head out just so I am sure I know where I'm at on the track. I'm actually leaning left or right to kind of see the track. Obviously with the elevation things you get a better perspective, but yeah, I want to make sure I can see, and in VR you can just move your head, get a better view. As he gets a little loose there, and you can see this overtake. It has taken a long time. Are we going to get it here? Well, I know he's close to me. I know he's right next to me. He's got the inside line. There he is right on my right. But coming into the braking zone, he brakes a little early. And I'm able to see that and just go ahead and turn in as we get the move done well after we started it. It seems like it was half a lap ago that I caught him. It was a few sectors at least, but we get the overtake done, and you see now we're in P2, and I know, okay, this must be first place. This is first place ahead of me, and I've got one lap to catch him. And I'll go ahead and say it took basically this entire lap to close the gap, as I focus on just getting good exits. And I kind of feel like if he's only broke away this much from second, then I've got a good chance with my pace of catching him by the end of the lap. So I wasn't too concerned about running him down. Again, I don't know the gaps, so I don't know if I'm gaining time or losing time. And sometimes that's kind of a good thing. I'm just driving at my own ability, focusing on what I know works, how I know to take the corners and pick up the throttle. And if I see him appear closer after a few corners, then I know I'm making progress. Is there, I actually drop the tire a little bit, almost lose control in the braking zone. I don't want to be doing that. I want to minimize my mistakes here as we come under the Nordschleife again. And obviously, I haven't even checked for rain, but we see blue skies, so very small chance of rain here. At this point, we can kind of jump ahead through the lap. So at this point, I feel like I am making progress and I am gaining on him. But here in a critical moment, I just take a little too much curb, get a massive amount of oversteer, but manage to catch the car. Probably lost a couple seconds to him just because of the position on track that the mistake happened. But I keep carrying on. I know I can't be making mistakes like that. I need to just run a solid lap, and I know I have the pace. I feel like the pace is there. I feel comfortable in this car, and I can just keep working on it, and we'll jump forward through the lap here. And at this point, he's just barely visible on some of the longer straights, but as we progress through the lap, I slowly feel like I'm gaining. Like right here, I must have got a better run than him, because at the end of the straight, I'm a little bit closer. And here now, we're actually in the same frame of the replay camera, so definitely progress being made as we skip ahead again. Coming out of the carousel, even closer still as we're coming into the section I feel like I'm the strongest at. And it's really coming up in the next few corners in this sequence that we finally start to close the gap. I think maybe the pressure, I don't have a relative time, but he probably does, and he's seeing the time come down and making a few mistakes. There you see he's clearly compromised the corner. And again here, up on the curb, a little loose, and we're there. So now it's just the matter of getting this overtake done and deciding where to do it. There are a few opportunities in the remaining corners, and the long straightaway at the end of the lap is really the best place for overtaking. We'll see. I'm right now just looking to follow, and again, running very close here. I lift. I'm not going to just try and drive around him. It's too narrow here and too dangerous to make an overtake, as I'm leaning left and right to make sure I can see the track ahead. I brake early, and he gets on the curb, makes a mistake there. I almost lose it running on the edge of the track, and I see the opportunity here. We have a light touch, but I make it through the second carousel, and here he is right behind me, heading on to the long straight. So now it's just a matter of getting a good run here, which I end up doing, and trying to hold him off for the last couple sectors as we run off right onto the edge of the track. And we'll see if the Mercedes can have enough power to hold back the Porsche. So right here, really, we're gonna just look in the rear view. I'm running far on the edge of the track. You see he's a little bit offset for me, so he's not quite in my draft. At this point, I switch sides. I didn't want to just weave. I even use a little bit of the pit out there for the tourist laps, just to try and throw him off, and it doesn't quite look like he's close enough. As we come down into the braking zone, he does close up very close. We get a little slide there, but he gives me a tap. He didn't have room to make it around me. As we come to the line, it is very close, but we managed to pull off the win from starting at P12, doing 2 laps of the 24-hour layout at the Nurburgring. If you liked the video, leave a comment, check out my TikTok, link in the description, and I'll see you in the next one.